here we go. Okay, so I'm going to give my review / analysis on The Institute by Stephen King. This is a new book, which I have in hardback and Kindle, because I'm a maniac like that, and I had to start reading it at midnight. So first and foremost, there will be spoilers, so proceed with caution. First thing, after I read this book, the first thing I thought was, my gosh, this is the trolley problem. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the trolley problem, it's basically an ethics question, and I'll give you the short of it. You can look it up. So the question posed is, there's 5 people over here who are going to die. You have a chance to intervene and save them. But by doing so, there is one person over here who you're going to have to kill. So what do you do? And after I read this book, I thought, my gosh, this book is the trolley problem as sort of spun through the spectrum of the Stephen King universe. So just to lay out the basic story, this is King revisiting some themes that he's touched on in the past, but it's a new spin, a new concept, and it's a great story. So the basic story is that there's this boy, Luke. He's 12 years old. He's a genius, but he's a well-adjusted genius. And he also has low-level telekinesis. It's not really anything that he can control. It's just something that's there, something that pops up every now and then. So he wakes up one day, finds that he's in a replica of his bedroom. He wanders out the door and he realizes he's in this institute, some sort of like a medical facility, with a bunch of other kids who have similar abilities to his telekinesis. They all either have telekinesis or telepathy. And he realizes there's a front half to this facility and there's a back half to this facility. The kids in the front half are all being prepped. They get series of shots and tests. They get hooked up to wires and all these various things. And then they're eventually, once they're prepped, they're moved to the back half. And nobody really knows what goes on back there. I mean, the staff does, but none of the kids really know what goes on back there. They just know that the vibe is that it's bad, and you don't want to go back there. You want to stay in the front. So, and I love that Stephen King explains how the Institute finds the kids who have TP and TK, their telepathy and telekinesis. There's a whole storyline there involving stringers and this BDNF testing, which is a real thing, but it's a fictional spin on it. But it's very clever. So I enjoyed that part a lot. Now, it becomes clear that this institute no longer operates the way it was originally designed. For instance, the replica bedrooms seem to, or not seem to, it's pretty much discussed in the book, that the replica bedrooms are there to provide some sort of a comfort to the kids. Because, look, they're being taken away from their home. They're being thrown into this facility. They don't know what's going on. They just know they're kidnapped, and there's all these tests being run on them. And they're not allowed out. They're not allowed to talk to their parents. So the replica bedroom was designed as a way to give them some comfort. Something that reminds them of home, reminds them of safety. They can go there at night, things of that nature. However, the staff who works there are mean, vicious, cruel. Their demeanor is very mean to the kids. They say cruel things to them. They do cruel things to them, unnecessarily cruel. For instance, when they take their temperature, they take it anally. It's just as a way to show the kids that, look, you're our guinea pigs, basically. So, it's counterintuitive. It's like you got this bedroom for comfort, but we're doing all these things to make you feel uncomfortable. So, like I said, this place no longer operates the way it was intended to, because it's all counterintuitive. I think the adults treat the kids like subhumans, because if they treated them like what they are, innocent kids, then they would have to come to terms with what it is they're actually doing to these kids, which is kidnapping and torturing them. So I guess their response is to just treat them like guinea pigs. What else did I want to say here? Okay, I enjoy the idea of taking a bunch of kids from different backgrounds, different social structures, economic structures, different schools where they have their own version of peer pressure. So you take all these unique little individuals and you put them in this place where they have to work together and they have to form this camaraderie with each other. I love that aspect. And Stephen King, I think, works best when he's working through the eyes of children. I love Stephen King stories involving groups of kids. So yeah, love that part of it. Now, in the front half, there are vending machines. Now, the vending machines work on a token system. When the staff is pleased with what you're doing, they'll give you a token, or many tokens. Now, the kids sort of range basically between the ages of 8 and 16, give or take. Some of the tests they run on these kids, back to the vending machines a second. So the vending machines, they have various things in them, from snacks mostly, but they also have cigarettes and alcohol. An 8-year-old can get a token and get some alcohol. Now, some of the tests that they run on these kids are painful. They give them some medicine to take back to their rooms. Luke, at one point in the book, gets a bottle of OxyContin. Now, again, this is a way that security has become lax, is that there's alcohol available over here, and you're giving the kids OxyContin over here to help them self-medicate, basically. Luke gets a bottle of OxyContin. Take it when you need it. Self-administer. To a kid, 12-year-old kid, self-administer this medicine. Now, they want to get the kids into back half, and then eventually into the back half of back half, right? Where the hum is. They don't want them to die while they're still in front half. I mean, imagine the man hours that are wasted if the kid commits suicide with this OxyContin, or if the kid accidentally overdose or accidentally has an overdose on this cocktail that they mixed with the OxyContin and alcohol, or what have you. So it's, again, counterintuitive. Security has become lax. I guess they figure they're dealing with kids who are scared. They don't know what to do. We don't have to worry security-wise. The cameras are all dusty. No one's watching the cameras. Things like that. But all of this creates this perfect scenario where you have this genius kid, you have a worker who is dying and is guilt-ridden, and you have another boy come in who is a very high-level TP, all mixed together with all the other kids combined into all that, creates this perfect scenario for this takedown. Now, the escape is intense. I was on the edge of my seat through the whole escape, and it is a pretty long escape. The whole time, every turn, every twist, I'm thinking he's going to get caught here. He's going to get caught. This is a setup. It has to be a setup. At every turn, I was thinking, this is it. This is where he gets captured. Because this was scouted out by one of the workers who was very sick, who looked haggard at the end. I'm thinking, how did this lady scout out this insane route for this boy to take? But then I'm thinking, maybe that's why she was so haggard at the end, because scouting out this route took it all out of her. But so the twins, I want to talk about the twins. There's an interesting thing about the twins. First of all, at the beginning, somewhere near the beginning, this Mrs. Sigsbee, who sort of runs this joint, she has her computer up, and there's a background. It's a picture of her twin daughters when they were babies in their strollers. Okay, so it's set up that she has twins. Now, later on in the story, these two twins are kidnapped and brought in to the Institute. And I'm thinking this whole time, like, there's going to be some sort of a story played out between Mrs. Sigsbee and the twins. She's either going to show leniency to them, she's going to show them some kind of favor, something's going to happen. Wrong. Nothing happens. Nothing happens there. So, I don't know. Maybe it's a missed opportunity. I don't know. But speaking of the twins, there is King uses these twins to make a surprising reference to Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of The Shining. It's like a surprising little nod to Kubrick's The Shining. I was like, wow, that's pretty odd, considering that Stephen King is notorious for disliking Kubrick's adaptation. He said it was misogynistic and all these other things. And, I lay all that out. I have another video, The Shining, book versus the movie. If you want to see it, you can go watch that. I laid all that out. But, so yeah, I thought that was surprising. Now, I like Mrs. Sigsbee at the end, and this is a great example of how King really gets into the head of his characters, and he creates these scenarios where he makes believable characters, because this Mrs. Sigsbee, at the end of the book, when she has clearly been defeated, she is still making demands as if she's in charge. And this is a great example of somebody who has been in power for so long, and they've been told yes, yes, yes for so long, that they cannot understand how anybody will ever say no to them. So that is a great example of King really fleshing out a character. Great touch. So Tim has, the first section of the book is about Tim, and then we don't hear from Tim again until the end of the book. Now, I was hoping that somewhere in the middle of the book, maybe there's one or two little interstitial parts where we revisit Tim and Dupre, and we catch up with the goings-on with the police department, and just to keep that part of the story fresh in our minds for when it wraps back around at the end. But whatever. Now, the final act is a thing of beauty. There's all of these smaller storylines that he manages to bring all together and wrap them all up nicely in this neat little ball. And now, he even provides a few explanations for things that didn't really need explanations. It was just a nice touch that they were explained. For instance, the history of the Institute and how it had its roots in Nazi Germany. I thought that was awesome. That was a nice little addition to the story. And the Institute itself, he could have gotten away without explaining it at all. It's just something that exists. We don't know why it exists. It's just there. He explains it all. He explains how these kids are found. How they have these stringers who go around. I talked about that already. But yeah, he explains all of these things that he could have gotten away without explaining. But just the fact that he does touch on that, it adds to the book. It adds to the story. It's a great book, and it's amazing that at this point in his career, he is still able to churn out books of this caliber. This one and The Outsider, and man, he's been on a roll lately. So yeah, that's my review / analysis on The Institute by Stephen King.